Hello, my beautiful listeners. Hello, and welcome to Let Me Bore You to Sleep. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. My website is jasonnewland.com. My name is jasonnewland.com. No, my name's Jason Newland. And my introduction is all in the wrong order, so now I forget what I've got to say. This is Thursday, the 30th of October, 2025. Now, I'm not excited about the date, but I'm excited about the day. It's Thursday. What could that mean? It's only Thursday Throwbacks. Thursday Throwbacks. So, yeah, it's 5:26 in the afternoon. It is pitch black outside. Yeah. It's dark at 5 now. Brilliant. A little bit later doing a recording, but I just had me little afternoon nap. Me mid-afternoon nap. I had me early afternoon nap earlier, and my midday nap, and my late morning nap, and then my mid-morning nap, early morning nap. Of course, I was asleep as well. That's going backwards, you know. So last week, on the very first Thursday Throwbacks, which was Let Me Bore You to Sleep, or LMBYTS 1471. This will be Let Me Bore You to Sleep number 1477. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's weird. Oh, I didn't do one on Saturday, did I? I didn't. I did one Friday, and I did one Sunday. So I did one, Thursday, Friday, Q&A Friday, Saturday, nope. I was watching boxing. Sorry. Sunday Papers was on Sunday. Monday's Boring Objects, I talked about bathrooms. Trivia Tuesday, I talked about Halloween. I did Whisper Wednesday yesterday, and now this. Just to let you know, my Facebook group is called Jason Newland's Boring Group, which you're welcome to join. I do have a YouTube channel where all my latest recordings are automatically uploaded from my podcast. So please subscribe there, and it's another place you can listen as well. If I'm listening to one of my recordings and I'm in the living room, I use YouTube. If I'm in my bedroom and I'm listening to one of my recordings, I use my website. So there's a few different options outside of using Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Castbox or wherever you choose to listen. There's a few different options, including my website and also YouTube. I forgot what I was talking about. I remember now. So today, what I'm going to focus on Thursday Throwbacks, I keep saying it so I can kind of remember it, is I'm going to focus on 1981. So I did already mention this because I already started it last week. What did I do? Oh, I got it wrong. I got it wrong. That's weird. No, I got it wrong. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing TV shows, aren't I? TV shows from 1981. I did 1980. I thought I was doing music. Okay. Change that to continue from last week. Week TV shows. This week is 1981. I got it already. All the top hits of 1981, but it's TV shows. Oh dear. So it's going to do that. I'm asking ChatGPT.com to build this list like it did last week, because I have no way of it would take me a long time to research this. I mean, I don't have it all locked in my memory. A lot of it is in my memory. I could definitely tell you the certain shows that I watched around that time, but it might not be that correct year, if you know what I mean. So, okay, cool. So it's given me a list, so let's see if it's saying anything else. Right, I don't need it into any kind of certain thing. I'll just use it as it is. So this is 1981 TV shows that were shown in the UK. It will also include TV shows from other countries that were shown in the UK, and there will also be TV shows that I mentioned last week as well, probably, because there are continuing shows that will be on possibly every year that I go through. So I'm going to go through the TV shows of 1980s, and maybe I'll do the TV shows of... I suppose I could go TV shows of the 1990s after that, then TV shows of 2000s, then TV shows of... The thing is, if I do TV shows of the 2000s, I watch less and less TV as time's gone by. I think I'd start to have to focus on box sets, because nowadays, if I look at what I actually watch on television now in a week, at the moment it's Big Brother. It will always be Big Brother if Big Brother's on. That's it. There's nothing else more important for me. Nothing more important than Big Brother as when it comes to TV. That's my favourite show, outside of like a big boxing event. I started watching EastEnders again, but I'm gonna just watch it. I'm a few days behind, so I've not watched it since last Friday. So today's the last, there's 4, so today's the last day of the week for EastEnders. So what I'll do, I'll watch it back to back on catch up sometime. Outside of that, probably Frasier in the morning. But now it's getting a little bit too... I know these shows, some of the older ones I'll watch, but then now it's getting near the end of the show, being broadcast, when it kind of got to its like end bit. And yeah, I didn't enjoy those episodes as much. So I'll still watch maybe a 1 or 2 in the morning. It's just a nice light break, from the day. And then I will check up on the news, usually the BBC News channel, like it's 24-hour news, and I'll check up on that probably once or twice a day, maybe depends on what day it is, just to make sure, I'm a little bit up to date with what's going on. And that's it really. I mean, I'll skip through the channels to see what's on, but I don't watch much of the stuff that's on the mainstream channels now. If I'm skimming through and I see an old 1970s show that I used to watch, or early 80s show, I might indulge myself and watch that for half an hour. Or at the weekend I'll skip through, and if there's a carry-on movie, I might watch that. But that's about it. I don't have that television routine that I used to have. I mean, I'll tell you exactly. I mean, when I was a kid, I'd get home from school, and I did this right up to my teen years. It changed a bit once I started doing. I think once I started doing karate, I was getting home and I was looking after my little brother, and then I was going to karate. So I'd watch cartoons and stuff with him. But, when I was maybe 10, 11, whatever, 8, 9, 10, 11, I'd get home from school. The first thing I'd do, if I was able to, is just turn the TV on in the living room and just watch it. I'd lay down in front of it and just stare at the screen. And the older I got, the better it was, because no one else was watching it. My brothers were too old to want to watch that stuff. So it was good. So I'd watch that until pretty much it was time to eat. And then I'd come back out and I'd just watch whatever was on. I mean, if I had control over the telly, which I did for that small period of time, from 4 o'clock till about 6 or 5:36, I would then I'd watch whatever I could, and I'd have my favourites. We also had a television we had this little dining area, dining room, which was next to the kitchen, and there was a TV there as well. So sometimes, I could watch TV while we were eating, or while I was eating, depending. Because, as we got older, my oldest brother was 4 years older than me. So by the time I was 14, he was never around, and my other brother was never around, because he was 16. So by the time I was 15, really, 13 rather, neither of my older brothers were around much, because they were out doing stuff. So I had a bit more space to watch TV and things like that. And then after dinner, or after I'd had something to eat, I would watch something like Star Trek would be on about 6 or 6:30, and I would literally just watch TV continuously until it was time for bed. Although sometimes what I'd do when the family were all together, I'd kind of go upstairs into my room just for a bit of peace and quiet. And my stepmum, someone would call me down for Doctor Who or Top of the Pops, or if something was on that I loved watching. Doctor Who was the one show that I was allowed to watch. When I say allowed to watch, I mean I almost got first dibs on the TV when Doctor Who was on, which was nice because it was my favourite programme. It's my favourite TV show. So when it was on, it wasn't just that everyone had to like watch it if they were in the room, but it was specifically turned over for me. Unless, of course, everyone wanted to watch it and I'm just deluding myself. It's possible. It's possible. And then I'd watch TV till probably, I don't know, 7:30 or whatever, and I'd go to bed. And see, when I was at the top of the house, I'd go to bed. I'd have a bedtime, which maybe it was 9 o'clock. I don't know, can't remember. 10 o'clock, 9. But I wouldn't go to sleep at that time. I'd still be up doing something. So, you know, it didn't. And I had a TV once I got to about 14. I think 13, 14. I had a television. In fact, I must have been about 14. So I didn't have a TV for long before I actually, the house was, you know, everything kind of crumbled in the household. But I did have a TV for a little while. But most of the time, I didn't have a TV of my own. So I'd be upstairs in my bedroom reading a book, listening to music, maybe writing songs, poems, trying to write a book. I had this, it's kind of kids' furniture really. Well, I was a kid. And it's like a desk thing, but the desk came out, so it was like a cupboard, and there was this desk on hinges, and you pulled it out, and it was a desk. And I realised, as I'm describing it, I wouldn't even as I listened to it myself, I don't understand the description, and I know what it was. So I've really described it badly. So imagine a cupboard, or like a big cabinet, and there's shelving, and there's like a cupboard that pulls out, the lid pulls out, and inside that is stuff. Well, that lid pulls all the way down, but it doesn't go all the way down, it stops once it gets to being flat, and that was the desk. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. So I had that, and I think there was also wardrobes in there as well, in that whole thing. And so I had books, and that's where I did my homework. Homework. It dawned on me when I got older, like when I was at school, that, see, I don't understand why. Did you hear that? It sounded like a boop. Just had an alarm go off, an alert go off. And there shouldn't be any alarm unless I've got an email. But even if I do get an email, it was 17:27, so no. I wonder what that was from. It's very strange. In my peripheral, I can see Vinny trying to get my attention. And now he's licking my feet, thinking that that'll work. I guess it kind of has worked because I just mentioned it, so I have noticed it, haven't I? And to be fair, he was getting my attention because I just mentioned that also. So yeah, everything he's done is been pretty on point. Why couldn't I just give him some credit for that? It just seemed unnecessary, didn't it? I could have just been nice. Nope. Ooh. Halloween tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah. Still haven't got my costume. I did say, I remember I was working in a call centre, one of my call centres that I worked in, and it was Halloween, and a lot of the staff were dressed up in fancy dress, and I forgot all about it. I just went in there to do my job, and I just didn't really. I'm not sure if I even noticed that people were dressed up. And people kept coming up to me and saying, "Why didn't you dress up? It's Halloween, why didn't you dress up? We're dressing up for charity." I said, "Okay, so how does that work?" He said, "Well, you dress up for charity. We're dressed up to raise money for charity." I said, "I know how charity works, and I know what that concept is, raising money for charity, but how does me dressing up raise money for your charity?" "Well, when you dress up, you put money into the bucket." I said, "I can still put money into the bucket." That flummoxed them a little bit. It's like, "But you haven't dressed up. Can't compute." Smoke was coming out of their eyes and their ears. Like, "I don't understand." And so I had a couple of people say, "Why aren't you dressed up?" And in the end, I got a little bit. I thought, okay, I'll nip this in the bud. So the next person has said to me, "Why aren't you dressed up? Why haven't you dressed up for Halloween?" And I said, "I have." And they said, "What?" I said, "I've come as a serial killer." Now, it probably wasn't a good idea because there'd just been a big major case locally that involved a member of staff, but I just thought, I'm dressed. I mean, not all serial killers dress as clowns. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the bloke. There's a couple that dress as clowns, isn't there, in the movies and stuff. And if I'm sitting in a cafe opposite a clown that's staring at me, I'm calling the police. To be honest with you, I'm getting out of there. Anyway. They didn't seem to. I thought it was quite a funny line. Like when I said it, I'm coming as a serial killer. I thought, yeah, that's a good line. But no, we didn't enjoy it. I mean, I don't know what was I going to dress as. I don't know. I mean, I was there to work, not taking away the fun because I'm brilliant if people can have fun with it. And I was I think at that point in my working career, I was working part-time, so I had to get on with what I was doing, and I couldn't take a break really. I was just I had, I think, 5 hours to just do everything I had to do. So, yeah. Oh, such a spoil sport. No, I wasn't being a spoil sport. It seemed a lot of effort. And I like to put my effort into the job. I mean, I know it wasn't as important as being a surgeon, but pretty close. Yeah. Okay then. Okay. Oh yeah, TV shows. So, God, when we get to the 90s, in a way, I remember the 90s TV shows more than I do the 80s. And you might think, well, yeah, obviously, because it's closer. Yeah, I suppose it makes sense. But I don't really remember much of the 2000s TV shows. And you might think, yeah, but you were working. Yeah, I was working in the 90s as well. So it seems the more I worked, the more TV I watched. So I'd get home and that would be it. I'd just watch telly. And yeah. But I think we should focus on 1981 Shall we? 1981. And before we continue, what's happened since yesterday? I had someone, like anytime someone comes to my door, Vinny barks furiously, which is kind of normal. You know, he's a dog. That's what dogs do, isn't it? Generally. So I try to reduce the amount of people that will be disturbing Vinny, because when he gets disturbed, the neighbours downstairs gets disturbed, potentially other neighbours in the building gets disturbed, makes me jump when we go from zero noise, zero like really quiet to rah, rah, rah. Honestly, it gives me a proper start, whatever that means. I think that's short for startle, isn't it? It startled me, gives me a start. So I went and had a look to see what had been put through the door, and it was a leaflet. So I opened the door and I didn't shout to the man, but I said, "Hello, excuse me." I said, "I've got a sign on my door that says no junk mail." And he was going, "Huh?" I said, "There's a sign that says no junk mail and leaflets and stuff like that." He said, "You don't want me putting through stuff through your door?" Like, "No, I do. Yeah, I'm just saying thanks. Thanks for ignoring it. Yeah, can you put more stuff in? More crap that I have to find a way of getting rid of? Yeah, I need more paper, please." No, I didn't say that, but I said thanks anyway. And I thought, it made me feel bad, because I felt afterwards that maybe I hadn't been very nice, and I genuinely wasn't being rude, but I don't know if I came across particularly pleasant. But part of the reason was probably because I ran out there and I was a little bit out of breath. I was like, you, did you not read the sign? So it was a little bit like that. But maybe I was a little bit angry. Angry, but not the right word, probably. Disappointed. Yeah. I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. I'm not angry, I'm just excited about it. I'm passionate. I'm not angry, I'm passionate. The amount of people's excuses they make, that someone will be shouting and swearing and then say, "No, I'm not angry, I'm passionate." Like, shut up your face. You'll be silly. Stop being so silly. Anyway, he went away and I thought, I feel bad now. And I go out and I look at the sign, and I realise that I can't even read the writing on the sign, even with my glasses on. The writing's so tiny, and it's low down as well, so it's below the letterbox, and it's probably not much good. In fact, it might be less than that. And I thought maybe I need to chase him down the road, just to sort of apologise to him, but I don't know how that would look either. Me chasing down a road, and especially holding the hammer. So I just thought, so what I've done is I've ordered a cheap letterbox sticker, and it says, the thing is, you ever buy stuff on Amazon and it's not the size it says. Like, I bought some condoms, and they said for like really small use, for really small ones, and I got it and it was massive. So no, misleading. I got that sign, and it was big on the on the screen. Not just because the screen's big, but it was like I could read everything on there. No junk mail, no all that stuff. And then when I got it, it came in this envelope that fitted through the letterbox, and I thought, okay, that's about the right size. Then I opened it up, and it was a size. I don't think it's even the size of a postcard. Probably half the size of a postcard. So yeah, not good. So what I've done is I've got this. Well, I found this thing on Amazon that shows the sign on an actual letterbox, like on a door. Now, I don't know if letterboxes come in different sizes, because I might find out that, maybe it was a letterbox for a doll's house or something. Hopefully not. So when it gets through, I'll put it on my letterbox, and then, that should do the trick. I mean, the other way I managed to get someone to stop putting leaflets through is every time they came up, and they come every week, every time they put a leaflet through my door, I would push it back out the door onto the floor outside. And they got a hint. And they stopped doing it. It took about 6 months. I mean, some would say that's a bit of a waste of time. Possibly. I would literally push it back out, and there was sometimes I didn't even see, and they just would build up, and the council complained. But anyway, that's enough of that. I think that might be one of my little bonnet bees. I don't want stuff put through my door that it's just, what's the point in doing all this recycling and like making us do the recycling, all that stuff, and if they're then just going to cause, well, not them, I know it's a different place, but I don't know, it just seems, these leaflets, and why not just do it online, advertise online. But then there was an ironic part of this story. Okay, my neighbour, one of my neighbours, she's looking for an educational course. We've just been talking about it, and I said, well, she's she's about 11 years younger than me. She's 44. And I said, have you ever been to university? And she said, no. And I said, well, and she left school with good qualifications and stuff. I said, well, you'll be eligible to have a student loan and all that stuff, maybe even help with other stuff as well, which things that I wouldn't be able to get because I've already had it, if you know what I mean. I've already been to university full time, so she could go to university full time. We've got 2 places in this area. We've got an actual university, and there's a big college which is connected to university, so you can do degrees there as well. Anyway, so that's what I said to her. I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago. And I said, you're not too old for that. I mean, I only got my degree when I was 40. So you're only 4 years older than what I was when I actually gained my degree. And she said, I could figure that out when you just said you got your degree when you were 40. I know how old I am. So you didn't need to have that last bit of the sentence. And I said, well, does it matter? She said, not really, but just a little bit talking down, a little bit condescending, isn't it? Assuming that I'm not able to add 4 onto 40, or to not know my own age. I said, no, that's not, I was not inferring that. She said, you and your big words, inferring. There's nothing furry about this conversation. And I thought that was weird. And she said, I said, well, you know, just go have a look online. If you want to, there's loads of local courses possibly. Perhaps I should take my own advice. Probably not. So I see her probably a few hours ago, and she's walking. I'm walking back from the park. She's walking, about to go into the park. For those of you that think that this is some big massive park, it's really not. It's more like a garden, like someone's garden. It looks like what they've done is the council have come along and just purchased parts of the garden of all the houses that are there, and just, you know, put up fences and laid some grass. That's kind of what it looks like. So, and she says, oh, I think we were talking about, what was we talking about? Oh, how boring it is living around here. And I said, she said, don't you get depressed? I said, yeah, only when I talk to you. She laughed. She did. And she punched me. But she said, oh, look at this. So she pulled out of her bag, and I thought, I hope it's some chocolate. And it wasn't. And it was, she said, oh, I've got information about a course. This came through my door today. And it was that, like, pamphlet, leaflet, magazine thing that they put through. It's kind of like a town crier monthly thing that they, you know, and it's got adverts and a few stories and stuff. And she was saying, I'm so glad they put that through, because like, it's really good. I read it every month, and it's got some really good information in there. And this could be, you know, it's got stuff in education and stuff as well. And I'm thinking, wow. My attitude towards having that stuff put from my letterbox is completely different to other people's. You know, she wants those magazines, free magazines, put through a letterbox. I want chocolate. We're all different. I think it's natural. And yeah, so that was it. I don't know really why I mentioned all this, but yeah, I've got my letterbox one coming, and it's going to be a sticker on the letterbox. And also, talking about Amazon, what I thought about doing is putting together an Amazon, what do you call it? Amazon list for Vinny. Just if anyone would like to buy him treats, just cheap treats, nothing expensive. But I think it might only be really available for people that live in the UK. Because I'm not sure if you can order it if you're in another country. But just try and I'm going to look and just try and find some treats, maybe some little bones, pig's ears, you know. So just an assortment of little things. If you'd like to, just send him some treats. Because he just gets through them, and he'll love it. So it's not for me, it's for him, and it'll keep him quiet as well. So I keep running out of stuff. What do you mean it's not for you? It means you haven't got to buy them, so therefore it is for you because it's saving you money. Oh, come on, shush, stop. Okay. Shall we do the 1981 TV shows? Oh, yeah, shall we? Major UK shows that debuted in 1981. So this is the first part. It's broken up into little bits. So I'll go through the major shows that started in 1981. And it does start with my favourite TV show pretty much or at least one of them, of forever, which is Only Fools and Horses. And a lot of English people, British people, UK people, whatever you want to call them, will agree with that. Not all, obviously. Maybe just some, but I would say a lot. Probably a good few million, I'd say. But very much likely it's going to be people in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Bearing in mind it hasn't been on TV since, I think 2002 was the last time it was on. So it's a long, long time. Not to me, it's not. But you know, to other people, it's a long time to someone who's 20. It's 2 years before they're born. Only Fools and Horses. So the sitcom debuted was September 1981. By the way, as I say with these kinds of things, don't use anything I say as fact. So if you're in an environment where people really need to be right, which is a lot of different places you may be, and they're saying something that's the opposite to what you've heard here, don't use what I've said as an argument. Just let them be right. Let them think they're right, because ultimately it doesn't matter. Now, it's different if you're making a spaceship, or you were, about to fly a plane, and the pilot was saying, actually, we can just let all the fuel go when we're like in full flight. We could just empty the tanks and turn the engines off, and we'd be fine. We can just fly without the engines. And we can don't need fuel, and we can just land. We can just glide down safely. If you're in that kind of situation, maybe if you're the co-pilot, maybe say no, that's not right. Jason said that Only Fools and Horses was debuted in 1981, which means it probably wouldn't be. It'd be a weird conversation, but I'm just saying it's in a kind of like some people, if they get drunk or whatever intoxications, and they'll argue and argue and argue, and ain't nothing worth arguing about, I don't think, generally. This need to be right. That's the two things I've noticed about people. Not the only two things I've noticed, but, and I say people, I don't know about all cultures. I've led a very, very limited experience as far as living here most of my life. Apart from, 5 weeks in Ireland. So I lived in like England pretty much the whole time. I don't know if this is an international thing. But so far I've noticed people really, really need to be right. And they also need to blame others. Those two things, if we could get rid of those, if I could get rid of those as well for myself, I think it would make a difference. But that need to be right. And that's what, do you know what, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was watching this, there's a lecture on religion and stuff, which I'm not going to go into, but and this lecture was by someone way more intelligent than I could even imagine being. And it was interesting the way he was saying that a lot of human beings have a real issue with admitting that they don't know. They have to, not only do they have to be right, so they have to know the answer, and then they stick to it, and they have to make it like it's right, because that's what they believe, therefore it's right, in whatever circumstances. And I remember when I was leaving school, and I knew that I didn't know. I knew that I didn't know, which is a weird sentence, but, you know, there was things. I was moving into the world of work, and I didn't know what I was doing. It was all new to me, and I didn't stay in one job for any length of time, apart from the first job in the chip shop for 2 years. But then after that, I was moving around, and people would ask me questions, and I'd answer honestly. If I didn't know, I'd say I didn't know. The same as my dad when he'd ask me stuff when I was a kid. If I didn't know the answer, I'd tell him I didn't know the answer. Yet he'd expect me, or the teachers would expect me to know the answer. Well, why are you asking me the question and you need me to tell you the answer? Why do you need me to tell you the answer if you already know what the answer is? What's the need for me to have to know what the answer is? And if there is a need for me to know what the answer is, why don't you tell me what the answer is? Instead of making me guess or look silly. And the amount of times other adults, always people older than me, would look at me like, "What do you don't you know anything? What do you mean you don't know?" And this was going on all through my 20s, not so much in my 30s, but it happened a lot in my earlier 20s, and people would just say, as well as my my teenage years and stuff, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, I can't know everything, and if you ask me a question, I think sometimes they just wanted an opinion. And if you ask me a definite question, why would I give you my opinion? If you ask me my opinion, I'll tell you. So if you say to me, who's gonna win? I'm trying to think. Let's say who's gonna win the fight this weekend that was just gone, Parker or Wardley. If you ask me who won, I'll tell you who won, because I watched it and I know who won. But then people that already watched it will say, no, he shouldn't have won. It got stopped too quick, it got stopped too soon, or got stopped too late, or different opinions. It's just an opinion. It doesn't make it real or a fact. And it seems that some people view the world as facts because that's what they think. So me saying Only Fools and Horses is the best TV show of the 80s. No, that's incorrect. To me, it's the best TV show in the 80s. It's the one that I love the most. It doesn't mean it's the best TV show of the 80s. It might be the most popular TV show of the 80s, statistically. Although I do have doubts how they figure that one out, to be fair. Because they can't monitor every single person. Maybe now they can, but back then they couldn't. I think Netflix is a much easier way of monitoring how many people watch the different shows, how long they watch them for, where they're watching from, unless they're using a VPN server thing to mask where they are. So And it wasn't that I was like being clever or trying to be clever when I said I don't know. There was so much I didn't know. When I left school, I didn't know more than I did know. And at 55, it's still the same. And it will always be the same. I'll always know less than I'll always know I'll always know less than I know. I'll always know less than there is to know. That will always be the same, and that will always be the same for every one of us. That's why I've never even pretended to be an expert on anything, even though I may have devoted many, many years to doing certain things and reading huge amounts of books and studying subjects. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm still trying to learn about myself. I've had little Vinny here for nearly 3 years. In December, it'll be 3 years, can you believe it? And I'm still learning new things, new ways that he communicates with me. It's still learning about him. He's a complicated little fella in some ways. He is. Honest, Gov, he is. So, yeah, just I think about that, and I wonder what it's like for younger people, and how, if it's the same situation, if they have the same stuff going on when they leave school or start out at work, where they've got older people like really kind of pushing them a bit, like, what's the answer? Do you know what the answer? What is that? Do you know? Don't you know that? Why don't you know it? Or that we should all have opinions of things. Why? Oh, I do have opinions. I'm not saying I don't have opinions, but my goal, one of my goals in life, is to reduce my opinions and reduce my beliefs, my limiting beliefs, my limited thinking, my prejudices. That's one of my little goals in life. To not be so manipulated by what I see and what I hear, which is a heck of a lot more than what it used to be, thanks to the internet and, you know, social networks and stuff like that. But also, wow, Facebook and YouTube as well. I can't believe some of the stuff I see on there. It's just blatant non-truths, as it were. So much. It's ridiculous. Do you remember when Facebook was just, hi, I've just done a poo? Or people would literally, do you remember it used to be, like for me, Jason is, and they would fill in the gap, wouldn't they? Jason is currently on a train to Southend. It wouldn't even be like in the first person. They'd be like talking about themselves. Do you remember that? I mean, it's a long time ago, but wow. Strange stuff. I've just had some cake. There was a certain degree of innocence, I suppose, back then, with the internet, I mean. And YouTube was a mixture of both. YouTube was both, it was cuddly little babies laughing, puppies dancing, kittens doing funny things, and some really pretty dodgy stuff as well. And they don't have that on YouTube anymore. I'm not going to go into details, but I couldn't believe what used to be allowed on YouTube back in 2007, 2008, 2009. But now it's very censored. See, there's certain words you can't say. It's kind of weird, because I don't know if it's so much you can't say it. If you say it, you'll get demonetized. So a lot of channels, it's a business, isn't it? And they're making money, so they kind of go along with that. But I even see people post comments where they have the same thing. They won't put in certain words, and these words are not swear words. They're not illegal words, or defamatory words, or words that would cause distress or anything. They're just normal words to describe a certain state of being. But people, can't do that on YouTube anymore. Not that I want to, because I don't really leave comments very often. It's not really my thing. I'm not really into comments. Not leaving them. I like to get them. Only nice ones, though. That's the problem, because when I do videos of myself, I get too many comments, like compliment me on how handsome and sexy I am, and it gets a little bit too much. It's a bit. There's only so many compliments I can take in a day. You know what I mean? So I don't need comments like that. I can look in the mirror. Yeah. I've got a picture of Brad Pitt on my mirror. So let's have a look. What have we got? So Only Fools and Horses, Bergerac. I did watch it. I watched it because it was on. Wasn't really interested in it. It was set in Jersey, which is kind of a British, I think it's a British island, or maybe not. But it was, and these were like shows that started. So Bergerac, I'd watch it. Wasn't really into it. Victoria Wood, as seen on TV. So again, I probably watch it. Wasn't really into it. It was probably a little bit over my head, because she was an adult comedy. I probably didn't enjoy it, to be honest. I like my comedy slapstick and a bit silly and childish, I guess, because I was 10 years old. I was a child. Did you see ? I've not even heard of that one. Weekend World on ITV. So that was already running. So it was a key growth year, apparently. So It Ain't Half Hot Mum. So it was a final run. So that was the end. That was the last series of It Ain't Half Hot Mum. By the way, if you're non-UK and you hear me say the word series, that's just another word for season. We don't use the word season in this country. Well, I guess we do now because of like Netflix and stuff, but when we talk about TV, it's series. It's the same as seasons, it's the same. It Ain't Half Hot Mum was I'm trying to how to explain this without being offensive, because it just was it was wrong on quite a few levels. It definitely wasn't PC. It was the complete opposite to PC. If anything, I would say that alternative comedy came about partly because of TV shows like that and the comedians that were around at the time. but it was very... it didn't even have... I liked it because I was a kid and it was funny, and it was people just shouting at each other. And yeah, I didn't really see the harm in it. I didn't see the prejudice that was in it because I was, a little kid, and I didn't see the world like that. I still don't see the world like that, to be honest. But I can understand how people perhaps wouldn't like it, because I've seen it now, and I've seen it recently on TV, and they show it, but they have a big banner. This television program reflects the views and opinions of a long time ago. This audience, viewer discretion, whatever, Okay, fair enough. Tenko. Nah. Nope. I know what it is. I remember, I think it was a woman's prisoner of war drama. It was on. I didn't watch it. Didn't like stuff like that. I'll be honest, there was so much war stuff on when I was growing up. And I guess it makes sense because the war was still quite fresh, really. Because it ended at 45. I was born 15 years later. It's not a lot, is it? It's not a long time. No, wait a minute. 45, 55, 65, 7, 25 years later, sorry. Wow, I just made myself 10 years older. So 25 years old later, I was born. My dad was born just after the war. He was born in 46. So I think he was my granddad coming home from the war celebration baby, I think. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. And yeah, so I watched a few of those movies and stuff, and yeah, I liked some of them, but Bridge over the River Kwai, I didn't really understand, I don't think, what was going on there. And that scene at the end, powerful scene, where he's actually, I don't want to spoil a movie for anyone, but I don't know, when was it done? Bridge over the river, the River Kwai. So it's 1957. Oh, no, it was... That's weird. The bridge on the River Kwai is a significant historical landmark in Thailand, famously depicted in the 1950... Oh, the river on the River Kwai, okay. So it's 1957. It was in Thailand. Oh. So... his... not colleagues, that's not the right word, but they were all prisoner of wars, weren't they? These lads, these blokes, sergeants and soldiers, and they went through the whole process of building this bridge, and then the Allies, the British soldiers and American soldiers, allies, were going to bomb the bridge. And I think it's David Niven, I might be wrong, David Niven tries to stop it being bombed because of all the blood and sweat and hardship that went into building it. And even though what he was doing was wrong, helping the enemy and stopping his own allies from escaping, the bridge had to be worth it. Kind of like, I guess, after all that, the bridge meant something more than just being a bridge. So he was trying to protect something, almost, I guess, trying to protect his own soldiers that maybe didn't make it out. So that bridge meant something to him. It was just, it was powerful. Am I thinking about? Am I thinking about Planet of the Apes? No, I think it. And then there's apes running around on horses and stuff. Yeah, that's a different film. Oh, never mind. Vinny's just guffed. I'm introducing you to a lot of English words. Guffed is another word for farted, just to let you know. Oh, man. It's like he doesn't even know. He's acting like it's normal. Like the room never smells like that. Like it's just like nothing unusual's happened. He's just lying there like it's a normal day. Like it's an everyday occurrence. Now, him letting go of some wind is an everyday occurrence. It's a natural thing, but wow. Oh, that was extraordinary. I don't know about this one. A Kick Up the 80s. Sketch show debuted in 81 on BBC Two. Nope. Da, da, da. See, this is one of my favourite TV shows of all time. The Kenny Everett television show. Now, I've mentioned this a few times over the years. I think I mentioned it last week. Kenny Everett was one of the greatest comedy, in my opinion, one of the greatest comedy people ever. It wasn't necessarily a comedy actor, although he did do some comedy acting. He was in a movie, and he did sketches and he did characters and stuff. But he was a really, really funny man. He was very famous on radio before and after being on telly. And if you'd have asked me, or you could ask me now actually, if I could be as good as anybody, like as far as, let's say, a radio person or even a TV show person, I would say Kenny Everett. So good, so funny, so likeable. I can't really. If you don't know who Kenny Everett is, maybe just check out Kenny Everett online, maybe on Google or YouTube, and even the clips probably won't do him justice. And his radio shows probably even funnier than his TV shows, because he was a legitimately funny person, just naturally. And he was a hero of mine. I used to do his characters and stuff when I was a little kid, because he'd be on TV. Well, a little kid, he was. So that started in 1981. So yeah, I was like 10/11, because I was 11 at the end of August 1981. So this is before. Well, this is. Yeah, I'd have been at junior school until the summer holidays, and then after the summer holidays, I would have started high school in September. About a week or 2 weeks after turning 11. And when I got to high school, there were kids there turning 12 a week or so, or 1 to 2 weeks after high school started. So literally I was around quite a few kids that were take 2 or 3 weeks away, a year older than me. And that makes a big difference when you get to like 12, 13, 11, 12, whatever. It's like, yeah, big difference. There's another one called Lady Killers, which is Granada crime series No, not heard of that. I can't remember that one. Then you got, these are ones that are returning, so I guess some of these are ones that I've mentioned before, but I'll go over them again because some of them I might not have gone into detail. So another one of my favourites was the Two Ronnies. I'm sure that used to be on a Sunday night, and for those that don't know who the Two Ronnies are or were, they're both unfortunately gone now, and they were both famous in their own right. So they were a double act. So Ronnie Corbett and Ronnie. That's terrible, isn't it? I should know the other one. Ronnie Corbett and Ronnie Corbett. I can't remember his name is. Ronnie. So Ronnie Corbett was the one with glasses. No, they both had glasses. Ronnie Corbett was the below average size. He was about 5'2". And then the other Ronnie was in two very successful TV shows in his own. Well, not on his own, but like, you know, sort of separate to the Two Ronnies. Ronnie Barker. That's it, Ronnie Barker. I didn't look it up. I promise I didn't. I could have done, but I didn't. So Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett. Ronnie Barker was, and they started, I think, in the 60s. I think they had TV shows all the way through the 70s, maybe even in the 60s. Ronnie Barker did a TV show. It was in Porridge, which was a massive show, and I think that was in the late 70s, and it was based inside a prison Slade. It's weird that I remember that. And his cellmate Gobbler was also a big star, big TV star, and he went on and he also starred in Rising Damp. He starred in that, which was another massive TV show, comedy. And it was Richard Dinsdale or something. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of information. It might be a bit of trivia for you that you might not know. You might know it, but you might not. But don't use it in an argument, though. Okay. So, Leonard Rossiter, another huge star, like in Britain, he starred in it, and then you had Richard Beckinsale. So he was in Porridge with Ronnie Barker and in Rising Damp. He was also in other TV shows as well. He did called Going Straight, and I think he got together with Ronnie Barker's daughter. So he did some other things, but he passed quite early. But what he did do, he gave birth, well, he personally didn't give birth, but his daughter went on to be a famous actress, Kate Beckinsale. Well, her name's Catherine, but Kate Beckinsale, and she's been in, what didn't she play? Underworld. So she was in all the Underworld movies, as well as loads of different movies, right from 1993 onwards. I mean, she's probably in her 70s now. I don't know. How old is she? Younger than me. She's 52. My friend downstairs loved her. Honestly, he loved her. So she's been in loads and loads and loads of movies. according to this, and some TV shows as well. But yeah, she's even got a movie coming out, 2 this year and 1 next year, or one's in production. Now, I know Underworld is very popular to a lot of people, so I've never really watched the programmes or the movies, but I just thought I'd let you know that. So it's a bit of trivia, really. Should have done that on Tuesday, shouldn't I, eh? Right, back to what we're supposed to be doing. Oh, Ronnie Corbett was in Sorry, which is, I love Ronnie Corbett. I can't help it. I loved Ronnie Barker because he was in Open All Hours, which was a TV show where he was a shop owner, and David Jason was his assistant, and David Jason went on to be in Only Fools and Horses as Del Boy. And there was a period when he did both shows at the same time. Two really successful shows. And the David Jason took over the show. They brought it back and called it Still Open All Hours. And I think they had Johnny Vegas and a few other people, like stars in it. And Granville, which is what his name is in the show, which is Del Boy or David Jason, Granville, he now runs the shop, or he owns the shop. So, yeah, and now he's an old man. I mean, literally he is. He's in his... How old is he? David Jason. 83 years old. Wow. It's just hard to believe these people that were... And again, he's Del Boy, so he's an important... He's... I heard someone say the other day that the word icon is overused. I don't really hear it used that often, but I'm probably not in the right places to hear it. But David Jason is an icon, TV icon. Absolutely phenomenal. He did, was it Frost, where he played a detective as well? He did that for years. He's been in loads of stuff, but yeah, Del Boy, for me, he's Del Boy, that's it. I'd tell you one thing the two Ronnies used to do is they'd put these TV, like these mini series together, and they'd do it a different part each week. On one of them they had, I think it was the two Ronnies, the Phantom Farter, Farter or something, and it was all this almost like a Hammer House horror, black and white, atmospheric music, and on train stations and foggy alleyways and stuff like that, and just see someone just running up with a cape and with a mask and a cape and just farting and then running off again. It still makes me laugh even now. I'm so childish. Morecambe and Wise. So Morecambe and Wise, very different, but also huge stars in this country. And I grew up watching them, as I do the two Ronnies. They didn't... I don't think they did much outside of working with each other. They did make a couple of good films, actually, that I liked. There was one film that they did, and I can't remember which one it was. And there was a bloke that was following them around. Just he was there throughout the whole of the movie. And right at the end, I don't know if it was Morecambe or Wise, Eric Morecambe, Ernie Wise. Eric, I think, went up to him and said, "Who are you? You've just been following us around the whole of the movie," or something like that. And he said, "Oh no, nothing. Nothing to do with the movie." He was. I mean, obviously he was an actor, but nothing to do with the script. No, they just had him in there for zero reason. I like that. So you got Yes Minister. I talked about that last week. Then they turned it into Yes Prime Minister. Very intellectual. Very clever. I don't think I really enjoyed that when I was 10, to be honest. Now, Terry and June. I loved Terry and June. Terry Scott and June Whitfield. So they worked together for years. I think they did 2 versions of Terry and June. And it's just an old married couple, or married couple being together, got kids and stuff, and kids had left home, and that was kind of their life. And they just get into awkward situations. I loved it. It was nice. And Terry, his voices, his facial expressions, he was so good. We got Butterflies. Now, Butterflies was... So this is weird, because Butterflies was on, and that had Nicholas Lyndhurst, who then became... he started in Only Fools and Horses as Dollboy's brother. So I imagine that probably finished before that started, the other one started. And he's been in quite a few other things as well. The Good Old Days, don't remember that. I vaguely remember Butterflies. I mean, I've seen clips of, reruns, but I vaguely remember it being on TV, but not something that I don't think the family watched it. But it had a lot of famous actors in it at the time. The Generation Game, BBC One. Now, that was a Saturday night must-watch, the Generation Game. And at the time, in the 80s, I think at the time it would be Bruce Forsyth, I imagine. But then Bruce Forsyth left, Larry Grayson took over, then Larry Grayson left, and Bruce Forsyth came back. So I couldn't tell you who was in it at that time, but we would watch it all the time when it was on. And basically what it was is it was a game show, and they'd have a family on there, and one of the parts of it is they'd get an expert to go on stage, and they would do, I don't know, for example, make like a clay pot, something like that, or a clay elephant, something, make something of clay, a clay octopus. That's probably something a little bit more simple. A clay tree, that probably is not more simple. But like, let's say a clay pot or teapot or something, and then the other people, so there'd be other people next to them, would have to watch it being done, and then they'd have to do it after just watching it, and Bruce Forsyth would just make fun of them. It worked, really did work. It was very funny. And then Rent a Ghost, I spoke about that last week, so I won't talk about that again, but I can't believe that was still on in 1981. And that was on 77. Blimey. I didn't realise it was still on in 81, unless it was just reruns. So drama. We had Coronation Street, which had been going since before television was even invented. Crossroads, which I never really liked because this reminds me of when it was on. in the early days. So yeah, wasn't really my thing. Was it Benny that was in Crossroads? They did bring it back. They brought it back in, I think, in the 90s, and they didn't last for long. But it was very popular when it was on. It's based in a motel, yes. Emmerdale Farm, I talked about that the other day, didn't I? Just based on a farm, like a little village area. There's about 15 houses, and more happens there than could happen to a whole city in a year. You know, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, anyway, it's Juliet Bravo, which is about a female police officer. When the boat comes in, that's Newcastle. That was my Newcastle accent, by the way. And I've seen a few episodes of that. It's a drama. I know I just put down here to say these are dramas, but it looks quite good. And I was always a big fan of what's his name that was in The Likely Lads. So, and he's in that as well. Arguably one of the most famous Newcastle actors of that period, anyway, at least. One of them, I don't know, can't think of any others. Minder, loved Minder. I'm not sure if I was allowed to watch Minder at that time. I might have had to wait till like a couple of years later, because I think it was on. Maybe it might have started at my bedtime, but I made up for it. I've watched I've watched every episode that they ever did on Minder anyway since. The Professionals. That's another one. I think I was allowed to watch it because on a Saturday night. Whether I should have been watching it is a different thing, because it was quite adult. And that still makes me kind of chuckle a little bit internally. The TV shows that were on late at night, because of how the adult content of them are now shown at 11 in the morning. It's like it's anyone. Don't matter if you're 2 years old or 3 years old, you can watch it now. And the content hasn't changed. When did that happen? That it's no longer classed as. Anyway, that was like detective series. It was our version of Starsky and Hutch. All Creatures Great and Small. Now, apparently the books are hilarious, but I've never really read the books. I did watch a bit. I liked the series partly because Doctor Who was in them. Peter Davison, who was one of the doctors, and once you're a doctor, you can do whatever you want. You know, that's because I was a huge Doctor Who fan. Sci-fi cult. So Doctor Who. Oh, look at this. Peter Davison began as Fifth Doctor in 1981. So was he doing both shows at the same time? Ooh. Unless he did that first and then moved. So yeah, I liked Peter Davison. During my younger years, well actually, I've never disliked any of the Doctors ever, because they're all different. They're all different. They've got different personalities. It's not that they look different. It's just they are different. They're different characters, which in a way doesn't make sense. Really. When you think about it, it's like he's regenerating, but it's not regenerating their memories or their personality. It's regenerating the body. But then they come out of it with a different personality. So it's kind of weird, but hey, it's still. I loved it. Blake 7. I watched that right the way through. No one else in the family watched that. I did. It was that I can remember anyway. Yeah, it got a bit silly, but I was happy with silly back then. Still am, really. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This was TV repeats. A great show. Very funny. Yeah, loved that. Loved that show. I remember it being on a Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. So I don't know how I would have watched it. Unless I watched it later on, like 82, 83 time, when they repeated it. And then you got children's TV shows from 1981. And I think a lot of these are just continuing. Just continuing, not discontinuing. Grange Hill, I would still be watching that. I love Grange Hill. I was watching that in the flappy ears. Thanks, Vinny. That was lovely for you to contribute. In such a useful manner. So Grange Hill, yeah, I would say Grange Hill was at its peak at that time. It was definitely watched by millions of kids. And I was one of those kids. I think Grange Hill would be on about 5 o'clock in the evening. Once a week, I think, like on a Tuesday or something. And then you had Blue Peter, which I think Blue Peter was on every day, but I might be wrong. That was after. These are after school shows. Tiz was an Saturday morning show. I didn't realise it was still on in 1981. I remember 1977 it being on. I thought it was well and truly gone by then. Yeah. Rainbow. I mean, that was for little kids. And that would be on... That was on like lunchtime, about lunchtime for kids at home. And I think they repeated it and put it on about 3:30 or something like that as well. So they have it on twice a day. I'll try and catch both if I could. Postman. Oh, is it Jacket Rainbow? Is it Rainbow where they'd say, which window should we go through today? And they'd go through and you have to choose a round window, a triangle window, or a square window. And we'd all guess. Because there was 3 choices. And we'd guess, like... And the whole family be around guessing. It's like, it's going to be a triangle window. And then it'd get closer and closer to the board. Because there's like 3 windows. And closer, it was like it was such a tease. It was like a little window strip tease, kind of, you know. And then it'd move into a different one. Then you see it's like, oh, it's the square window. We said triangle. And then everyone has to go off and get on with their life, and I would continue watching it. Don't know why I had to come into the room just for that bit. Kind of spoilt it for me, really. All the neighbours used to come in, like, it's like 200 people. Why are you here? It's just a window sequence of the show. I think it's going to be the round window. He always said round. That was a bloke that lives next door. I don't know why he was always obsessed with round windows. Jackanory, which is basically... it was a person sitting on a chair telling a story. That's what Jackanory was. And there'd be pictures and stuff as well. So it was aimed at kids. And yeah, I used to watch that. Especially as, you know, as I've mentioned before, I had that book, a Jackanory book, which was really important to me when I was little. Postman Pat. I don't remember watching Postman Pat outside of watching it with my little brother. I didn't watch it for myself, I don't think. But I might have done. Pipkins. Did I watch Pipkins? I don't know. I'm not even sure which one that is. Is that the one on the moon? I don't know. So then you've got music and youth section. Top of the Pops. I mentioned this last week, and it's not on anymore. I'm not really sure why it's not on anymore, but it was, to me, the best programme of the week, pretty much. Like week in, week out. I didn't prefer it over Only Fools and Horses, but that wasn't on every week of the year. Top of the Pops was. And especially the Top of the Pops Christmas special after Christmas dinner. So they'd have, it's on BBC, they'd have the Queen's speech, because it was always the Queen until 2022. In this country, my whole life, the Queen did a Queen's speech every year of my life on Christmas. And I realised it wasn't just for me. And after that, there'd be Top of the Pops. So my dad and whatever family would be watching the Queen's speech, and I'd be getting ready for Top of the Pops. And then you got, should I explain what Top of the Pops is? It's a chart show, the top 40 songs in the charts. There'd be live acts singing, at times there'd be miming, and sometimes it'd be videos of the act. Sometimes it would be just a song with dancers, what they called sexy legs or something. Boobs and Legs, there was something, it was like a name of the group, and they would, later on they had men and women doing it, but in the early 80s it was just women in leotards. It's actually true, you could check it out. That got changed in the 90s or the 2000s, and they'd just be dancing and like singing along, like miming, but they weren't the actual acts, which was a bit annoying to find out, because remember I got tickets to go and see Phil Collins, and when I got there, the stadium, it was just this bloke at a piano, occasionally at the drums. It's like, why is he not dancing around in a... What's going on? But yeah, eventually I kind of realised that they weren't actually singing. Got a little bit confusing sometimes. So the old grey whistle test. The thing is, when you're at a concert, you can't just shout out like, "Where's your leotard?" It's frowned upon, even now. Even in our more enlightened times. Just the word leotard, I don't think it gets such a great reception in any situation. None of the teachers liked it. Where's your leotard? And I thought, one of the benefits of going to university was to be able to just do what I want, but no, you still get in trouble. The old grey whistle test, never watched it, apart from when I did. It's on BBC Two, very serious show about music, about serious music. And I didn't take music seriously. For me, music was about enjoyment. It wasn't about anything serious. So I didn't watch that. I'm not saying that's how I perceived it at the time. I do believe in my memory. Nationwide pop arts inserts. I don't know what that is. News and current affairs, Panorama, BBC One, Newsnight, BBC Two, launched 1980, big in 1981. Panorama, I think that was it was a news programme and they'd focus on a specific thing for the hour or whatever. Generally wouldn't have watched that in 1981. Newsnight, 100% wouldn't have watched it because on too late. And that was, again, like a news programme on about 10, 11, something like that. World in Action, another news thing where they'd focus on stuff in the news. I wouldn't have watched that. Weekend World, maybe if it was on during the day. Nationwide, I think that was on early evening, so I might have watched that. And ITV News at 10, possibly at the weekends I'd watch that. The news but maybe not in 1981 though, because I'd have been in bed. I wouldn't be at the weekend. I'd probably be up till 10. During a week, I imagine I was in bed by 8 when I was 10. I'm not 100% on that one. I would ask my dad, but unfortunately he doesn't remember anything about what happened when I was a kid. He was busy. He was busy like going out to work to support us all. So things like that weren't really in his on his attention, you know. I mean, quite often he'd still be working at that time. A very hard worker. Sport, Grandstand, BBC One, Match of the Day. Now, at the time, I realise I'm possibly just repeating what I've already said previously in other recordings. I nearly said videos then. My local team was the top team in the country. When I was a little kid, Ipswich Town was the top team in, I'd say, 1970, 80, 81. They were in the big league. Won the FA Cup, UEFA Cup or whatever. So they were really big. I don't know the exact years, but they were top. So football would be on. My oldest brother loved football, so we would end up watching football matches. I watched it if Ipswich were playing, but I still wasn't particularly interested. However, I did kind of want to be like him. I definitely wanted to be as tall as he was. It's ridiculous. About 6'5". I'm 5'8". That's not fair, is it? World of Sport. I probably didn't watch that. I think that sounds like a late night show. Snooker boom coverage continues. Okay. Wimbledon, FA Cup, boxing. Yeah, all of those. So we always watch Wimbledon, the finals anyway, both Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday's the women's finals, Saturday's the women's finals, Sunday's the men's finals. FA Cup, yeah, we'd watch that. Boxing, if it was on at the weekend, if it was a big one, yeah, watch that as well. Notable, I wasn't really a big boxing fan when I was that age, at 11 or 10. It wasn't really till I got to about 14 that I fell in love with boxing. There's been a few years still though, isn't it? Although I did see boxing, I saw Muhammad Ali's when he fought Larry Holmes. I saw Barry McGuigan win his world title. I saw quite a few, did see some fights, but I wasn't that interested necessarily. I mean, I think the Muhammad Ali one was interesting because prior to that, I'd only seen Muhammad Ali as a celebrity. And he was just super famous in adverts, on TV, being interviewed. You know, I'd seen him growing up my whole life. He was on telly. so I'd never really seen him box. I don't think. I might have seen clips on like Saturday news, Saturday boxing, whatever, clips of his fights and that. I might have seen some of his live fights, like on TV. I don't know, because I was too young. But I think they fought in 1980, Larry Holmes and him. So I saw that. But anyway, this is 1981. Wimbledon, FA Cup, boxing, snooker, definitely. Snooker was massive then as well. Really big. Really big. Was it... Oh, Davis. Steve Davis was he was the biggest snooker player in the world at that time. And he was unbeatable. And he was the greatest there ever was at that time. We've got others now, but he, I think he had the world title like 5 or 6 times or something, which has been beaten by, what's his name? Notable imports broadcast nationally in the UK in 1981. American and international. So again, I'm going through some of the ones from last week. Dallas and Dynasty. So Dynasty, I talked about Dallas last week. Dynasty was launched in late 1981, which was very much a rival for Dallas. I think that was why they did it, because Dallas was all these rich, super rich people, beautiful rich people and stuff, and Dynasty just had the same thing, just a different storyline, different people. And so I used to watch that. We used to watch both. Different channels, but they didn't put them on at the same time, I don't think. Because I guess the TV shows knew that would not be popular, because they were both highly watched, both of them. I'm pretty sure Dynasty, or if you call it Dynasty, was possibly more popular than Dallas at some time, because it had Joan Collins, and of course Joan Collins is one of us old Brits, so we loved old Joni Collins. So then you got Chips. I love Chips. Do 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 do, whatever. So that was 2 motorbike cops, and yeah, loved that. It was weird because it was really light-hearted and jovial, and the introduction music, but it was pretty gritty at times, like really. But I still, loved Chips. I wanted to be on one of those motorbikes, but that would only really work on a huge motorway like in America. Our roads are too small. Even our motorways are too small to be able to do stuff like that. The Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, at the time, I don't think I'd have put any TV show above the Dukes of Hazzard. Yeehaw! I loved that show. It was something that I'd look forward to watching. It was on a Saturday night. And for those that don't know what it was just a couple of brothers. Were they brothers or cousins? That used to just travel around in the General Lee, which was a car. And you had Boss Hogg. And they just basically just car chases. It was, it was just silly fun, really. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. I mentioned this last week, so I'm pretty sure I did my beady impression. Loved that show. I just loved it. I'd look forward to Saturday nights specifically for the Dukes of Hazzard, Chips if it was on, Dallas, Buck Rogers, all of those shows. I'll be happy. I'll be at school waiting for Friday bell to come, so I could go home, and I'd look forward all week to the Saturday night. That was my favourite night of the week, because it was the most relaxed week, the most relaxed evening of the week, like consistently. My dad would be at home. He'd be relaxed, chilled out, because he'd finished. He might be working during the day, but he'd be relaxed and usually fall asleep in his chair. The TV would be on. We'd all be there. We'd have, like, on a Saturday evening, or that early evening, 6 o'clock or something, we'd have like sandwiches and crisps and bits, because my stepmum was so good. I was going to say she was great at, basically just filling the gap, great at everything, great at cooking, great at just everything. She was just really, really good at everything. So the Saturday evening, it'd be like a buffet. That's probably the right word, a buffet. Just take what you want, and we'd sit down. Quite often we could just eat on our laps. When we first did that, I had to have it explained to me that, you have to put the stuff on a plate. But I was just gathering stuff into my dressing gown. But then we'd be there watching TV, and then after we'd eaten, my stepmom would give us all a bag of sweets. And I was just blissed out. A bag of sweets, sitting on the floor or sitting on a chair, whichever, watching TV, and just trying to zone out everyone else. And it was good. I enjoyed it. And yeah, so Saturday nights were good. I love Saturday nights. Just don't seem to. For me, it's boxing. If boxing's on, if it's a good fight I'm looking forward to, then that's what Saturday night is now. Heart to Heart. Again, I loved Heart to Heart. I'm sure that used to be on a Sunday evening. And then we've got Magnum PI. And I think about that, and I think of it being really a long time ago. Which is weird considering I'm talking about 1981. But it was a long time ago, wasn't it? Obviously. It's just, I can't remember what day it was on. I'm sure that was on in the midweek, like Thursday time. MASH was on BBC Two. That used to be on quite late, because I didn't get to watch that until I got my own TV. And that was on around 10:30. Because once I got my own TV, I was up. I literally fell asleep in front of the TV. It was brilliant. I loved it. Different Strokes. Another one of my favourite TV shows of that period. So that was another one that was on midweek. I think that was on a Monday evening, I think. I might be wrong, but I think that was on a Monday, because these are obviously like American or international TV shows. It's not all of them, because there's probably loads that they're not mentioning. Battlestar Galactica reruns. Yeah, I don't remember when they were on, but I used to watch them. The Muppet Show final broadcasts. Really? So the Muppet Show finished in 1981. That used to be on a Saturday night, maybe earlier years, but it was so popular. I didn't realise that they finished it in 1981. So, these are the children's imports. The Smurfs. I used to watch the Smurfs. I think the Smurfs used to be on a Saturday morning, as did no, wait a minute, Scooby-Doo. I'm pretty sure Scooby-Doo was on in the afternoon, like late afternoon, but it might have also been on in the morning as well on a Saturday. There was a lot of episodes, I think, so yeah, they kind of just not sure, but I used to watch Scooby-Doo. I think I preferred it when Scrappy-Doo was introduced. Let me at him, let me at him. He-Man, pilot imports, testing blocks begin. Testing blocks begin. He-Man, by the power of the universe. Is it? I have the power. He-Man was very popular here. But then I think of He-Man, I think of Skeletor. Oh, Skeletor was part of He-Man, wasn't it? Oh yeah, that's why. Quick talking points for you. So it's giving me some things to talk about, which I'm not going to. Oh, I will do actually. 1981 was the end of Blake 7 and start of the 5th Doctor, which was Peter Davison. Postman Pan, Only Fools and Horses, launched quietly, later becoming icons. There's that word again. I think Only Fools and Horses wasn't very popular when it first came out. The first season or series wasn't so popular, and then it became really, Tiz was still chaotic Saturday Kids TV, Swap Shop, Rival, Legacy, so that was still going on. So the Swap Shop was still on as well. I already mentioned the massive US influence of Dallas, Dynasty, Magnum PI, what's it called? Chips as well. Don't forget Chips. Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, I can't say 1981 was the year when America sort of came to the UK with all the TV shows, because as far back as I remember, we've had American TV shows that were brilliant. Mork and Mindy. That used to be peak time on a Saturday in 1978. I'm trying to think of some others now. Okay. So, very, very cosy BBC sitcom era. Butterflies, Yes Minister, and Terry and June. Okay, Butterflies was cosy. Yes Minister, I wouldn't class that as cosy. It was very hard hitting and gentle, but hard hitting at the same time, and probably above my head at that time as well. I didn't really know what they were talking about. Terry and June, as I said, that was it was a very relaxing show to watch. It was nice. Both of the characters were great. It was just nice. It was just, comforting. And I hope Vinny's, what's he doing? So that is the end of this recording. Tomorrow is Q&A Friday. Next Thursday I will do another episode of Thursday Throwbacks, but it will be TV shows 1982. So I want to say thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself. You deserve to be happy, and be gentle with yourself. You deserve to feel safe. Lots of love. Bye.